G'day guys and welcome, my name is Michael and I'm the DeadAussieGamer, here to share with you my tips, tricks, ideas and strategies for playing and running tabletop role-playing games. Today we're going to be talking about handing out treasure. That's right, we're going to be cracking open the loot box and sharing our information with you guys because handing out treasure is one of the most exciting things you as a GM can do when rewarding your players. But, you know, on occasion we tend to think that, giving treasure is something for the end of the adventure. You know what stakes are in store for when you slay the dragon and you finally unleash their horde upon the lovely and wonderful players that have now conquered this adventure. But treasure is not something you just need to give at the end of an adventure, but it's something that ensures that your players stay motivated throughout. Today we're going to be sharing some of my tips, tricks, and ideas for dealing out different types of treasure to keep your game fun, immersive, and engaging for all involved. Alright, where do we begin? Well, first of all, I want to put a little bit of a disclaimer here. While I'm going to be talking about dealing out treasure, every single role-playing game has its own kind of economy when it comes to loot, right? Games like Pathfinder, for example, include loot in the character's strength or overall effectiveness. So it's more important for a GM to hand out treasure in these games. Whereas games such as, say, Through the Breach, for example, doesn't really have too much of a heavy focus on loot gain. Economy is quite small, and you may not find yourself getting too much treasure too quickly. Play these bits of advice to what is going to be reasonable for your game, because of course they are going to be different. So disclaimer over. Let's start with one of the first types of treasure, and I think it's the most important type, and that is treasure that is purely morale. Okay, this is morale treasure. Morale treasure is treasure in the sense of being rewarded by the actions of those around your PCs, right? Let me share with you guys a story. Once upon a time, in an adventure that I was running, a stone giant encountered this manticore and was shot in the eyes with a bunch of quills. In a blinded rage, it trampled through the forest and down towards a nearby town. The group did battle with this giant creature. Now, given the size of the creature and stuff like that, our group just thought it was just rampaging, but eventually saw that there were quills in its eyes and opted to help the creature instead of kill it. So they tied it up, they knocked it down, they did non-lethal damage, and eventually removed the quills from the eyes and restored the creature's sight. The stone giant was incredibly appreciative of it and actually gave the group a small horn. This horn, ripped from the horn of a bison, would be used to summon his aid should the group need it while traveling the mountains nearby. Now, this bit of treasure was a reward, not just because I wanted to give my players, something to kind of, say, yeah, you did the hero thing, but it's a sign of appreciation. And as this is an appreciation thing, it's less about how much money they can get out of this horn or, what they could sell it for or who wants or who values this. It's none of these things. It's someone who appreciated your actions is expressing that appreciation in the form of a reward of some kind. The morale treasure is important because ultimately, as your players continue on in an adventure, eventually there's going to get to a point where they feel as though like, oh, we've been at this for ages. Every step forward we seem to take, there's another step back. If you ever feel your players starting to get dejected, a morale treasure is always something that kind of reinvigorates them. It doesn't have to be magical. It doesn't even have to be a physical object. Having a group be approached by a local baker who appreciates the fact that he saved their bakehouse with some freshly baked goods and just describing how much effort and how much love was put into them is all that a good group needs in order to kind of revitalize and feel that motivation. The purpose of morale treasure is to make the players feel good. That's it. That's all it is, right? Some treasure is all about making gold. Some treasure is about overcoming puzzles and obstacles. This, just about feeling good. So this kind of treasure is always great. The next type of treasure is, going on gold, is going to be the financial treasure. Now, financial treasure is very, heartless in a way. For me, financial treasure is things that get scavenged most of the time from places and things. Let's say you fight a bunch of bandits and your group decides to loot the bandits. What do they loot? Do they loot just anything relevant to the plot? Or do they take all the coin purses, their boots, their armor, their leather, their weapons, their hats, their, mother's maiden name? I don't know. Do they loot literally everything off these people, right? This sundry amount of stuff is all about value of coin. It has no inherent story benefit. It has no inherent value beyond weight that people have to carry if you track weight, and they are a good thing and a bad thing, right? It's a good thing to have loot-based treasure because ultimately it is about commerce. It is an encouragement for the group to go back to town, to sell their stuff, rest, recuperate, and revitalize before continuing the adventure, right? It also means that the players gain some control over the items that they get. If they didn't have money to be able to go to the shops and buy the items that they want, well, they're going to find themselves just kind of like going, oh, good, another magical longsword. I guess you get this, Dave. There you go. Oh, one of these days we'll find a magical mace or a magical axe that one of us can use, but till then, enjoy all those magical swords, buddy. Yeah, so you can find out that when you've got enough money saved, you can have your players get the treasure that they need. It does, however, work as a double-edged sword. Because if you do not give enough of that treasure, right, you'll find that people loot everything. And when they loot everything, they don't value anything. If, however, you have been playing your cards right and balancing that, then what you want to be doing is you want to be handing out treasure that is moderately valuable, but seemingly worthless. What does that mean? Well, let's say, for example, you find in amongst the bandits' belongings a necklace, right? The necklace is not magical, but set into the middle of it happens to be this beautifully spherical opal. As you are not in a coastal town, this opal makes this one necklace worth 700 gold pieces. Let's say 700 gold pieces is like 200 gold more than a decent suit of armor and a weapon, right? That's how much money it's worth. It's a necklace. The necklace itself is worthless to the group. The group could wear it and make themselves look pretty, but ultimately this is just money with a name, right? That is what I mean by having something that is valuable but worthless. Something that doesn't really just come in the form of like, yes, you find a bag of coins. There are 10,000 coins in here. It's like, Jesus, it's like a freaking Scrooge McDuck sack over here. You don't need to dole out gold like that, And the cool thing is that if you are creative enough with those little bits of treasure, the loot-based treasure, you actually never need to have your party going around carrying like 20, 30 suits of bandit armor, 17 freaking swords, 18 bows and arrows. It's like, well, no, actually, that entire value of all that stuff is paled in comparison to that one necklace. So you can just carry the necklace in your pocket, and there you go. You've got the treasure you need. So, when it comes to salvaging treasure, make sure you include salvage that is, quote-unquote, worthless, but valuable. Because, that's just going to ultimately make your games nice and easy. The third type is what I like to call the wish list. Now, the wish list is brilliant. I highly recommend if you play any game in which you want to reward your players, have a wish list. This is where I tell my players, blue sky, give me a bunch of items that your character absolutely and incredibly wants throughout the course of the game. Or, if you want to be more specific, throughout the course of what you expect the game to be. So let's say your quest takes you from level 1 to level 5. Cool. Let's say that up to a level 7 magic item is where our goal is. You can have anything you want. Let's say 10 items a piece. Just put them on the chart, and that's what we get. When you get to certain points in the adventure that you think a loot drop might happen, fighting a boss battle, fighting a sacred tomb, unlocking a chest, whatever, roll on that table, take one of those items, bam, it is in the chest. There is a pre-written agreement between the players that the treasure found belongs to the people who suggested it, who have requested it, and it becomes a point of excitement when you know it's your thing that's dropped. I guess I got no real comparison to it unless you've played MMOs, because when you've played MMOs and you've done adventuring for a while, and then you get to that one moment where the loot that you've been hunting is dropped, and you're just like, oh, yes! It is an incomparable rush, and you can rebuild that rush with the wish list. So highly recommend that. So you've got your morale treasure. You've got your salvaged treasure, your mundane, your loot, your money treasure. You have your wishlist treasure, which again, very valuable and very personal. You can even actually make them more personal if you really wanted to. Like, oh, I want a magic sword. Oh, fantastic, cool. This magic sword is the sword of the Piscine saber, and it has the pommel that looks like a fish. You believe that it may possibly have been once belonging to an ancestor of your tribe. Make it personal, make it cool. Because that's what wishlist items are. They're personal, right? The fourth item, now this is going to scare people, is make stuff up. Right? Like, absolutely, make stuff up. A lot of people, I feel, get locked in the mindset that if we have treasure and we're running a module, the module has to be this treasure. This is exactly what they get, and I don't need to add anything into the book. Or, alternatively, they're playing their own adventure, and they go, oh, cool, just have some gold. There's some gold on the pirate and the bandits. There's some gold over there. There's some gold over here. Yeah, find rubies and gems, sure. That guy had, like, a magic weapon, but it's the magic weapon that he was using because that's what I wrote for the NPC. What you don't tend to have is that random one cool magic item that just breaks the rules, has no sense. It's something that you've made personally for your homebrew. Treasure like this is always interesting, fun, and engaging because if you play with people who are experienced, right, they know what to find when you say, oh, you find a ring of protection. Oh, great, fantastic. I know exactly what it is. You know what to expect when you say, very well, you found a boots of elvenkind. And you're like, oh, cool, boots of elvenkind, But if you say, you find these very strange sets of rings. Each ring seems to be inset with 3 different gems. You're not entirely sure what they do. Oh, okay, I put the ring on. You feel a wave of energy suddenly surround you. And 3 words seem to spring into your mind. Etuan, and Bess. Okay, I say Etuan. As soon as you say that, one of the gems explodes, and when it does, suddenly this tiny little creature, a fairy, appears. As it does, it says, yeah, what do you want? But, all of a sudden they're like, magic item did things, oh my god. It becomes an exploratory element, It becomes something that the players start to feel and measure and try to learn about. That moment is great for experienced players, because, as an experienced player, I definitely enjoy getting loot. Absolutely. But I enjoy getting loot I've never heard of. That's something exciting. That is us trying to figure out and trying to play around with what elements make this thing tick. And using that in a game is just so much fun. So much fun. All right. So with these 4 particular elements of types of treasure, when and how is an appropriate time to hand these out? Well, first of all, if you're running an adventure module, then you know when the perfect time to hand things out are. Defeating monsters, finding chests, the usual places. But there are a couple of other places that you may not have thought of. Now, if you're dealing with a particular city or place where there are a multitude of NPCs that stand to benefit from your group's actions, handing out treasure is a great way for a NPC community to show an appreciation for the group. Having a town representative approach the group and say, oh, yes, I saw what you did with those giants up in the mountains. Our city would have surely been destroyed in their wake. So as thanks, we all kind of did a whip around, and we have got you this. We noticed that your saber is quite dull and worn. Behold, the saber of Kadash, a true weapon for a true hero. Yes, all of a sudden you not only give the group some treasure, but you solidify the attitude of the people to the players as well. They are more likely to keep them alive, they're more likely to do stuff, and they're more likely to feel things when you inevitably turn the bad guys on the friendly NPCs, right? So that's a great way to hand things out. Unexpectedly, have it so that the players don't need to fish for their reward, but they're simply given it. Another really, really good place for handing out treasure is what I like to call the Requisition Event. The Requisition Event is an event that happens in downtime that allows the players almost infinite time and means to build, create, and craft whatever items that they would like, as well as trade with various individuals. I usually have a moment like this between my chapters. So if I've got like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, they'll have a moment of respite where they'll be able to upgrade their gear. Now, the way that I usually run it is I usually set a limit. This limit might be like a little bit higher than where they're expecting to be, and I tell them this. At the end of whatever it is you do to your character with money, with loot, that's whether you sell stuff, whether you, buy stuff, whatever, this is how much monetary value your character needs to have on their person. It may also include limits like you can only have one magic item, or you may have no magic items, or you may only buy weapons and armor, you can't buy sundries, or maybe you can buy weapons but not items, whatever. This requisition point will have its parameters, and the group will be allowed to shop, build, and create to their discretion within a period of time. These moments are great because, for me, especially when I run modules, there are always going to be moments where my players have missed a room, or they haven't gotten anything, or they've simply, kind of just played super well and they've kind of gotten straight to the end. Whatever the reason is, it's always important to remember that this is a good way to kind of audit the character and re-bring them up to the point where they need to be in order to continue the adventure. The benefit for you as a player is that it means that you don't need to be picking up every little tiny piece of dirt in order to enjoy the adventure. And your benefit as a GM means that your players now can take that time and take those periods of time to focus on what their characters have and what their characters need in the upcoming adventure. So if I played my first section of the adventure as a dungeon crawl, they might not need like 30% of what they brought because I'm going to now take them up a mountain and they need a whole set of different gear. Well, if I give them the requisition time between games, fantastic. They sell what they don't want, they bring what they need, and then they keep going. It's great, it's fun, and it's a good way to make sure that treasure and money doesn't like bog you down. The third type, and probably the most interesting type of handout, comes from what I like to call the Wandering Merchant. The reason I find this interesting is because my Wandering Merchants are always interesting. They're always characters that my players can interact with and do some cool stuff with. And a Wandering Merchant should be someone who has an air of mystery to them, right? Now, there should be a risk at using the Wandering Merchant. Now, let me explain why. I've always believed that if my players are in town, that is somewhat sacred, right? If they are resting in their downtime, I will give them a period of time to do that, because if I don't, then it becomes tiresome, morale kind of goes tanked, and, whatever. I might, break that and then send them into the next act, but I won't interrupt their rest, right? The Wandering Merchant is a bit different. They function almost falsely as a place of respite, a place to put down your woes and rest your hat and, do all those sorts of things. You can buy a bunch of stuff from them, sure. But there's always a catch. There's always something in the works. There's always a betrayal waiting to happen. That is the important part of handing out treasure with one of these merchants. It might be, like, here, take this. You do not need to pay me now, but later on I will ask for a favor that I'm sure will take you no time at all. It might even be that this person deals in cursed items. It might be that this person is actually trying to get rid of some stuff that he's stolen from an angry troll. Okay, yeah, no, sure, take all this. Yeah, no, it's fine. Yes, no, as much as you want. Okay, bye. This is a plot point as much as it is a place to gain treasure. So the Wandering Merchant should be something fun, something interesting, something engaging, something that entices your players to rest, but have a twist thrown in as well. All right, thank you so much for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Guys, we are doing so much stuff on Twitch right now. Go check us out there. And if you want to participate in some of the cool games that we're running, our Patreon is available for you guys. We will be actually looking at potentially changing one of the days in the coming future. So do watch this space. Do watch that Patreon page, because there might be a chance for you to come play with me during the week as well. And of course, go check out all of our social media. Links are in the description below. And till next time, guys, as always, from us to you, game hard or die trying. Good night, everyone.